All right, so thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate Pastor Darren having me out here. My name is Gephart. We're going to talk about the basics of your health, and there's a lot of differing information out there on the web and in the magazines and the books, and so we're just going to try to demystify that a little bit today. I love starting all my presentations with this verse. Don't just pretend that you love others, really love them. And I think with this crowd, it's really easy. Pastor Darren, it was even one of his points that we need to love God. And, we know in the Bible it says, breaks it down. The whole law of Moses and the books of the prophets can boil down to these two things: love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. And when we do that, we are such happier people. We're such less stressed people, and we'll talk about stress and how that affects us. So don't just pretend that you love others, really love them. This is also a gut check for me because it's easy for me not to love others. In a crowd the size of church this morning, I probably honked at some of you on the freeway when you're doing your 65 in the left lane, and I'm doing my 75, and I got to go around you. And so it's tough for me to love others every second of the day. So I like to put this up there even to kind of check myself. So there's me. I'm currently undercover with my beard. No, I just started to grow a beard, but 2 years ago, that was my life. My wife Claire, who's was just in the back, and then our dog Woodford. We've been married for 2.5 years. I played college basketball, and then I played professionally. I've played basketball on 5 continents until the age of 27. Nothing, Europe and things like that. I did some traveling with Athletes in Action. What people mostly get a kick out of is I played on the team that played against the Harlem Globetrotters. So people like to hear that. I did that for a full summer. We went all over the world playing. And then in 2007, I went to California to get my master's degree, started my personal training business in 2008, and then my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, decided to move to Austin in 2016. I followed after her. That same month, I proposed. We got married in January. And it was just after when I started my personal training business in 2008. So let me back up a little bit. I was born and raised in Michigan, moved to Delaware when I was in high school, and I had 2 friends in Delaware who were overweight. You could even call them obese. And being this professional basketball guy and having to be in shape, I was like, and of course, in early 20s, we all think I thought I knew everything about what there is to know about the body and health, and so I was like, if these people just ate a little bit less, and if they just exercised a little bit, then they could lose their weight. Like, what's the problem? Well, I moved to California a couple years later, started the personal training business, and I found out that I don't know anything about the human body. Like, I thought I did, but I didn't know anything. And I love that place. It's a very vulnerable place, but it really helps. For me, it really drives my desire to learn. So I started learning as much as I could about training, about the physical body, about health, and all of these people that I was learning from, I kept seeing, referencing 2 names, Charles Poliquin and Paul Chek. And most people probably don't know those names, but they started their own education systems, and they couldn't be almost on the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of exercise and in terms of thinking about the body, but yet there's a lot of similarities. And it's a very holistic approach, very scientific approach. And this was a year and a half into, probably 2009, actually, is when I really dove into their education systems and got certified. And because it was a holistic approach, I then remembered my 2 friends and the thoughts I had about my friends from probably 5 years prior, and I realized how wrong I was and how insensitive I was and how I like to use the analogy of the recycle logo. Everyone knows that. There's an arrow pointing to one arrow, which points back to the first arrow, and it's just a continuous loop. That everything in our lifestyle, everything that we do, affects our health. I've read research as high as 70% of our lifestyle 70% of disease and illness that we have in today's modern world could be changed or completely obliterated if people just changed their lifestyle. It's lifestyle habits. A quote I love is, our DNA loads the gun, but our lifestyle pulls the trigger. So there's this new scientific wave of epigenetics, and so we all have this genes, and whether breast cancer runs in your family or type 2 diabetes runs in your family, these are the genes that you were born with, you had no control over, yet we have the ability to change the expression of our genes by our lifestyle. And so that's really what we're going to talk about today. And the other thing that it really struck me was that weight has hardly anything to do with health. We're not going to talk about weight today. We're not going to talk about losing body fat. Very little at the end. But health does not mean the same thing as looking good. There are so many people, I guarantee you, in the bodybuilding community that if you looked at their lab work, it would be really bad. And vice versa. There's a lot of people who you would look at, they're like, oh, a little bit overweight, this and that, but blood labs, health, stress-free, they look, and their health is so much more better. So we're going to talk about that today. So like I said, this was my life 2 years ago, and then 7 months ago, this little beauty came into our life, and she's over there crawling on the floor now. I don't know if y'all saw her. Claire, can you hold her up, actually? I just love showing her off. We have had trouble with fertility, and so we were called on the same day. Joy is adopted, and we were called on the day that she was born. We were about to go to bed at night, and they said, "Can you come to Dallas? You were matched with the girl." And we were like, "Great, when is she due?" And they said, "She had her baby this morning. Can you come to Dallas now and pick her up?" And so the story of her is a great story. I'll be happy to tell anybody about it, but she has totally changed our life. There she is, and man, we couldn't love her anymore. She's amazing. So let's get to the basics. Master your basics, master your health. John Wooden, if you're into sports, you know that John Wooden is arguably the greatest coach in any sport in the history of sports. He's widely regarded as the greatest coach. He's also a believer. But he said, show me a basketball player with good fundamentals, and I'll show you a good basketball player. Show me a basketball player with great fundamentals, and I'll show you a great basketball player. So even in sports, even in basketball, this guy knew that the fundamentals were the key to being a better basketball player. The same can be said for our health. One of my mentors, Charles Poliquin, said, the rule is this: the basics are the basics, and you can't beat the basics. And I have to say that he looks pretty good in that picture for a 54-year-old man. So what's the problem? We've forgotten where we came from. We need to go back, way back to the basics. I'm talking about our ancestors. How did they live? How did they eat? We are allowing stress to ruin our health. Busy isn't a pride thing, it's an out-of-control thing. I heard that a few years ago from a speaker, and it just blew my mind. A lot of us, I don't even say myself, I won't project, I go around, oh, I'm so busy, blah, blah, blah. And we use it as a badge of honor, but it really is an out-of-control thing. And we're going to go into that later. Fake food is robbing us of nutrients. And then we don't realize the impact of artificial light in our life, and we're going to go over that. And then we don't know how to train. We don't know how to move our bodies. We don't know what the best way to do that is. So what are the basics? I gave some of you a card. For me, the basics are sleep, sunlight, and stress management, nutrition, hydration, and movement. I love that hashtag. We use that for my gym, the Strength Warehouse. I think that summarizes everything I want people to be. I want them to be healthy first. I want them to be mindful. I want them to be aware of their surroundings. I want them to be strong. And strong doesn't just mean physically strong. Yeah, guys, can you pass around those business cards? Thank you. So basic number one, sleep. I wish we all, and I'm sure we all wish we could feel as great as Buddy the Elf looks in that picture if we just got 40 minutes of sleep. The problem is we need a lot more than 40 minutes of sleep a night. This is the slide with the most words on it. We're going to get it out of the way early. Probably can't even read it up there. So what's the problem? A general rule of thumb is that adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep nightly, but the average American sleeps 6.5 hours nightly. That's compared to 8.5 hours up until 1960, the same number around the turn of the century, 1900, Americans were sleeping about 8.5 hours. In 1960, when things really starting to speed up, office jobs, things like that, sleep really started to decline. This does not take into account quality of sleep. So people might be in bed for 6.5 hours, but even still, they're not sleeping for a full 6.5 hours. If you don't get enough sleep, this can lead to blood sugar dysregulation, think type 2 diabetes. This can lead to depression, hypertension, hormonal imbalance, and more. The next couple of points are about kids because I train a lot of athletes. Being an athlete, a former athlete myself, I love working with athletes, and a lot of my athletes are between the ages of 13 and 20. They're kids. And so I've done look at a lot of these stats, and I know everybody in here probably has some children in their lives that they can relay this message to. Adolescents and children with shorter sleep duration are 2 times more likely to become overweight or obese. They are more likely to be depressed, to have behavioral issues, to be diagnosed with ADD, ADHD. They are more likely to have worse academic performance. They are more likely to attempt suicide, take drugs and alcohol, and get into car crashes. It's a really telling statistic. So how much sleep do kids need? 6 to 12-year-olds need up to 12 hours a night, between 9 and 12 hours. 13 to 18-year-olds need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And a recent CDC analysis found that 73% of American kids do not get enough sleep. So all of these issues, all of these mental issues now that we're seeing with kids can really potentially be altered just if they got enough quality of sleep. 23% of middle school and 43% of high school children got 6 hours or fewer a night, which is really sad. So sleep is our number one fat fighter. People don't realize this, but it improves our insulin sensitivity. It improves our body's ability to metabolize and move the insulin molecule, which is a result of heightened blood sugar. Whether we have stress or whether we're eating carbohydrates or other foods that raise our blood sugar, when we sleep the necessary and required and good quality sleep, it improves our insulin sensitivity. It helps to regulate our body's stress response and cortisol levels. Sleep is also our number one disease fighter because it realizes that there's an improved cytokine production. Cytokines are basically what the immune system uses to fight off disease and infection, to combat inflammation. And if you're not getting enough sleep, your immune system isn't optimized because you're not making enough cytokines. So it's really important. And then improved mitochondrial DNA. So there's some science throughout this. I'm going to kind of race through it and then get to the practical stuff and what we can do about it. But it's important that we have mitochondrial DNA copies because it helps proper cell function and it helps to fight free radicals. So my tips, these 8 tips for sleep, if one doesn't work for you, another one probably will. And I found that in my career, training people. So I am a personal trainer, I run a gym, but I really try to get to the heart of people's problems. It's usually inflammation, blood sugar, insulin problems, cortisol stress problems, or even detoxification pathways and estrogen dominance. And so all of these things, all of these basics really help all 4 of those topics in the body. And so if one of these 8 doesn't help you, try another one because the other one might, all right? So sleep in a dark, cool room. You shouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your face when you sleep. It should be pitch black. And we're going to talk about light in the second basic, but light is so important in regulating our body, whether there's light or the absence of light. And this is one of the reasons you want to sleep in a pitch black room. You want it to be a cool room, okay? I've read some literature that says 64 to 68 degrees, so when your wife wants you to crank up the heat, be like, no, honey, I want good sleep. I'm turning it back down to 68. But do what feels comfortable for you, but a dark, cool room is really good for optimal sleep. Also, exercise. When you exercise, you improve your body's ability to rest, obviously, because you've done some damage to the muscle, you've exerted yourself, your body needs the recovery. I call this one a brain dump, and a brain dump has worked. Is there any type A's out there, any business owners, any go type people? So at night, we want our cortisol, we want our stress to be low, but if you're one of those type A people, if you're one of those business owners, you're thinking about, okay, tomorrow I got to get my kids here, I got to do this myself, my business is here, I got to get to here, I got a meeting, this and that. You need to write those things down, okay? You can use your phone, you can use a computer, but it's better to use a pen and paper by your bed or a pencil and paper and write your top 3 or 4 priorities that you're going to have to do tomorrow. Write them on paper. What you're doing is you're telling, I'll use myself as an example, you're telling nighttime Phil, it's okay not to worry about it. It's okay to forget it because morning Phil's going to handle it. All right? And it's allowing your brain and your nervous system to just chill out. So a brain dump is really, really good, especially if you're one of those go, go, go type people. Daytime sunlight really helps your sleep. We're going to talk about that next basic. Eat carbs with dinner. Okay? Some people call this carbohydrate backloading. We'll talk about the reason why this helps in basic number 4. But have a baked potato with dinner, have some rice, have some berries. This can help you sleep. Electromagnetic free room, put your phone on airplane mode. That's the moral of that story, the moral of that line item. I had a female client who, she trained satellite, so I didn't see her in the gym. I just wrote her workouts, I wrote her program, and then she went and executed it on her own at her own facility. And so she sent me an email about 2 weeks after we started, and these last 2, carbs with dinner, which she was always told, stop carbs at noon or whatever, and putting her phone on airplane mode, she said, for the last 2 weeks, I have slept better than I have ever in terms of, night over night over night, having a good night's sleep over good night's sleep over good night's sleep. I can't stress enough that when you have these cell phones, tablets, computers that get and receive the electromagnetic frequencies, it can keep your nervous system awake. So even though you're sleeping, you probably heard of sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic. So it can keep your sympathetic nervous system on and running. And so, if you're, like I said, a business owner, your parent, your kids are out, it's late or whatever, do your best to put your phone as far from you as possible if you're going to need it to receive a call or whatnot. But as best you can, eliminate all of the electromagnetic frequencies from your room. Use a fan or a white noise app to eliminate all those things that go bump in the night. It could potentially wake you up. We use the white noise app ourselves. It's literally called white noise app. Now there's different frequencies. So just a quick side note, we use pink noise. So there's pink noise, brown, blue, white. There's all these different colors. But the frequency of pink noise helps your body and your brain calm down. No screens for 30 to 60 minutes. And or use blue blocking glasses. Some of you probably have seen these. I give them to all my new clients. They're actually just safety glasses, and we'll talk about blue light in the next basic as well. But wearing these will block the blue light at night and can potentially help you sleep. All right? Really, really, and they're like $5.99 on Amazon. They couldn't be cheaper. Pick those up. If you do like to watch your Netflix at night, if you like to be on your phone and play Candy Crush or whatever you're doing. And then take magnesium. We're not going to talk a lot about supplements, but magnesium is one of my top 3 supplements that I think a lot of people, almost all people, need to have at some level. And so magnesium can really help you sleep. So some key takeaways: 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, because it helps stabilize our blood sugar. It helps to fight infection and disease. It improves our mood and energy, and it's necessary for proper hormone function, which will go into the circadian rhythm, circadian biology next basic as well, which is now. So basic number 2 is sunlight. And we will have question and answer at the end, so if you do have questions and you want to write them down so you don't forget, that's fine. This could just be light in general, but we put sunlight because I think there's a lot of benefits to thinking and being aware that the sunlight is really important. So our modern life has led us more and more to move indoors. All right, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb in 1879, and since then we've slowly moved so much more indoors that now most people, they might get some sunlight from the windows, but they're inside under the lights of our houses, which now are mostly LED, which are toxic in and of themselves. We get in our cars, we drive to work, we're under lights again. We go back home, sometimes it's already dark, and we don't ever get outside. And that's really sad, and it's really bad for our bodies. We're rarely exposed to natural sunlight. Instead, we are bombarded with artificial light. Overhead lights, the screens, we're all on computers at work mostly. We look at our phones throughout the day. And then non-native artificial blue light may be the biggest threat to our health in this modern world. Why is that? We're going to talk about it in a second. So how does the sun help our health? How does it affect our health? Well, the AM sunlight sets our internal clock via the suprachiasmatic nucleus. All right, now the suprachiasmatic nucleus, we're going to talk about it a little bit. It's this little portion of the hypothalamus, and it basically is the master clock in our bodies. Now, if you think about it this way, every cell in our bodies has a clock on it, all right? All of those clocks look to the suprachiasmatic nucleus to determine what time of day it is. What time of day it is important because our hormones follow the 24-hour day cycle, the circadian rhythm. So the suprachiasmatic nucleus is stimulated by light and dark. The whole reason we want to have a dark room when we sleep is the exact opposite. We want to have a lot of bright natural sunlight in the morning because it tells our bodies what time of day it is and which hormones we need to produce. Ultraviolet A sunlight in the AM helps our bodies create melatonin. So melatonin, some people take it to help them sleep, when in reality, if you just get in the sunlight in the morning, that UVA light is going to help your body to release the melatonin in the evening. You're creating it and your body's building it in the morning. The ultraviolet B light allows our bodies to synthesize vitamin D. Most of us have heard of vitamin D. That's the second big supplement that I like people to take if their vitamin D is low. But the vitamin D from the sunlight is much more beneficial. Optimal vitamin D helps fight disease, regulate blood sugar, prevent cancer, supports testosterone levels and optimal men's health, cardiovascular health, brain health, fetal brain development, aids weight loss, reduces depression, improves bone density. Should I go on? There's a vitamin D receptor site on every cell in your body. So if your vitamin D is not optimized, which I heard some functional medicine doctors say 35 to 60. I've heard some people say 50 to 80 is a sweet spot. Your lab work will say 30 or above, but I usually don't go by those numbers, so we want to know where the healthy people are. And the healthy people, 40, 50, 60, those are great ranges for your vitamin D. But because there's a receptor on every single cell in your body, vitamin D literally affects everything that you do. I think God was pretty smart making us accept vitamin D from the sunlight, and he made that on the first day. So a brief overview of the circadian biology. There's the circadian, or the suprachiasmatic nucleus, okay? The optic nerve, so it goes in through the retina, it goes in through your eyeballs, and basically, long story short, the output is the endocrine system, okay? Here's another quick one. The presence of light and the absence of light go into the retina, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to know this. I just wanted to show you for the nerds like me who want to know kind of the mechanisms behind this stuff. But that's the pathway for melatonin production. So again, a couple other things. The sun, how does it lead to optimal health? Infrared light stimulates the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the main highway, basically, between the brain and the gut. A lot of us have heard of the brain-gut axis. Most of our thyroid hormone is produced in the gut, okay? Obviously, we digest our food in the gut. A lot of our neurotransmitters, you've maybe heard of dopamine, acetylcholine, these chemicals that make our brain feel good, feel rewarded, feel happy, feel pleasure, most of those are created in our gut. When we get infrared light from the sun, we stimulate that vagus nerve and improve our gut health. Ultraviolet A light helps us generate nitric oxide. Why is that important? Blood pressure is a very rampant thing nowadays, hypertension. Nitric oxide, when that is elevated, helps to lower blood pressure. We can actually lower blood pressure just by getting in the sun. Red light enhances mitochondrial function. Our mitochondria is where our body, so every cell in our body has mitochondria. Our mitochondria is where our bodies create our energy. A lot of us want to feel energy. The sad thing is, and I wish I knew why we were made this way, mitochondria peak at the age of 10. So after 10, we're all losing mitochondria every single year. And so we need energy. We need to find these sources of energy. We're actually the first solar-powered machines. Right? You can look at it that way, that we are solar-powered. We will get more energy, the more red light, which comes from the AM light, more than the PM light. Okay, so get out in the sun. Real quick about that. So I don't have a slide on it. 20 to 30 minutes in the morning sunlight is really great. So again, I think it's a beautiful design. So depending on where you live, you're going to get vitamin D from the sun pretty much from about late spring to early fall. All right? In the wintertime, we don't absorb and make vitamin D from the sun. The farther away you are from the equator, that time shrinks. The closer you are to the equator, that time grows. So we're a little lucky down here in Texas. We have a good 6, 7, 8 months where we can synthesize vitamin D, but we're getting now to the end of that cycle. All right? Now, we still want to get in the sunlight for all these other reasons. But we want to get in the sunlight and enhance our vitamin D production, because what happens is, hopefully, the spring comes, we get outside, we go to the beach, more of our skin is exposed to the sunlight. Our vitamin D creeps up until we're in the fall. In the fall, we put our clothes back on, we go back indoors, and our vitamin D starts to drop off. Now, what happens mid to late winter? What season? Flu season happens, yeah. So flu season, I call it lack of vitamin D season, all right? So what I tell my clients is you don't take vitamin D in the winter or in the summer. You get out in the sunlight. You get your body exposed, all right? A lot of people here take vitamin D, usually the 5,000 IU caps, all right? You'll get 20,000 IUs of vitamin D in 20 to 30 minutes in the sunlight, depending on how dark your skin is. The darker you are, the less you'll absorb. You got to be out there longer. So get your vitamin D from the sun. Get it up there in those optimal ranges by the late fall, mid to late fall. And then maybe January comes around, maybe you can start supplementing with vitamin D to prevent the flu season from happening. But it's critical that you get out there during the summer months. And like I said, we're lucky we're here in Texas. We can still get a little bit of that, but our time is fleeting. So get out there. The big reason I wanted to show this temperature of light is for this right here, the LCD monitor. So our screens, these tablets, TVs, phones, all of this stuff that we're looking at on a daily basis for hours on end on a daily basis usually, and especially at night, the temperature is 6,500 degrees. Well, look at the noon sunlight. It's 5,600. So it's even more intense looking at these screens than the noon sun. My reason behind this is because artificial light leads to disease for that reason. So when we're watching TV at night, when we're on our phones at night, and it's 10 p.m. and it's completely dark outside, we're telling our brains it's noon. Make cortisol, do not make melatonin. All right? That's the whole reason behind these glasses. You block the blue light, and there's a lot better looking glasses online if you want to spend more money. You don't look like you're a construction worker, but you block the blue light, you're allowing your body to realize that there's no blue light present and create melatonin. All right? It'll help. That's why it helps you sleep. That blue light, I should say non-native blue light, so not the blue light from the sun, but the blue light from our screens, it can wreck our circadian rhythm for that reason that I just mentioned. It can increase your blood sugar. So if you're type 2 diabetic, this is another little tip to do. It can lead to depression, and it may be the leading cause of poor sleep. Tough to calculate, but maybe the leading cause of poor sleep. So some key takeaways. Get in the AM sunlight. Get out there in the morning. It helps to establish your circadian rhythm, and because of that, your hormones and your hormone production. Vitamin D and melatonin production are aided by getting our sunlight. Again, vitamin D, I can't stress how important it is. It's been shown low in people with weakened immune systems, like the flu season, diabetes, asthma, cancer, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and those who are obese. It can also lead to fractures and falls. So if your vitamin D isn't optimized as we age, it can lead to fractures and it can lead to falls. It's been shown low in those populations. And then screen time can disrupt our blood sugar, hormones, mood, sleep, and more. It's really critical. If you can't tell, I like Christmas movies. So stress management is basic number 3. I know this was covered in an earlier talk, so I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. What's the problem? From the time we wake up until you put your head back on the pillow, it's showtime. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, what's the first thing they reach for when they wake up? They grab their phone, okay? Whether it's to turn the alarm off or whatnot, but they grab their phone. Usually they're already checking email, they're checking Facebook, they're checking their Twitter account, they're seeing who called, they're seeing who texted. Their brain automatically, it's like trying to accelerate on the highway, and everyone's already doing 100 miles an hour and you're doing 5. It's like things are going, all right? So it's showtime, and it really doesn't happen, and it really doesn't stop until we put ourselves on our head back on the pillow at night. I have so many clients, some of the best things that you can take away from today, and it sounds silly, but next time you go to the bathroom, don't bring your phone. Next time you're at a red light, don't pick it up. If you're having coffee with somebody and they get up to use the restroom, just sit there and enjoy the moment rather than picking up your phone and just hammering that stress. All right? Another problem is longer work hours. Again, we saw that since 1960. Sleep has gone down, stress has gone up. The busier, the better. There's that badge of honor. We'll talk about more environmental toxins, but environmental toxins can lead to higher cortisol levels, can push stress. Chris Kresser is one of the most popular health gurus in the world. He's got a really great website, chriskresser.com. A lot of science there. He said if you're not doing some sort of stress management, then you will sabotage all of your best efforts with diet, exercise, and supplements. All right? A lot of people think about their food. A lot of people think about exercise, and a lot of people take supplements. But if you don't have a stress management component, you are greatly going to sabotage yourself. All right? Daily stressors, we know, traffic, arguments, job struggle, not enough time, environmental toxins, financial problems. These last three, most people don't think about. But environmental toxins that come from our food and water and our air are big stressors on the body that we don't realize. Food sensitivities and allergies, all right? 43% of Americans are allergic to gluten. Yet how many people start their day with a bagel or a Pop-Tart or something bready? They have a sandwich with lunch. They have another piece of bread with dinner. They're constantly bombarding their bodies with gluten when out of this size, there's probably 10 people in here potentially that are allergic to it, all right? So gluten, dairy, corn, and soy are the biggest allergens that we know of. And then autoimmune conditions are also big, huge stressors. So cortisol, some of us know what this is. I'm sure it was covered. It's a natural rhythm of the body. It follows that 24-hour cycle. It should be high in the morning, usually peaking about 8 a.m. It goes down throughout the day, usually the lowest about 10 p.m. And we usually have these stresses in our day that should go up and down in this natural ebb and flow. But the problem is we have a chronic elevation. And when that cortisol is chronically elevated, it's going to do a lot of damage to our bodies. Why is that? Cortisol is a catabolic hormone, okay? Many of us have heard of anabolic steroids. Anabolic is growth, is building up. Catabolic is breaking down, all right? So cortisol is a breaking down hormone, and again, it's necessary. It shouldn't be vilified, but if it's chronically elevated, it's going to do some damage to your health. Chronic elevated cortisol inhibits stomach acid production. If you think about the fight or flight mechanism, if a tiger came into this room and we all needed to get going, digestion isn't really a priority at that point. It's survival. And so because cortisol has an effect on the stomach acid production, we need to be aware of that, especially if we have gut problems. IBS is chronic nowadays, a lot of gut health stuff, and it goes upstream to cortisol a lot of times. Chronic cortisol will inhibit testosterone. This is another big thing. You know, we've seen all the men's health commercials. There's men's health facilities going up all over the place. There's ED commercials like crazy, and we've all probably heard them. When your body is stressed, making testosterone isn't a priority, right? It's thinking about fighting the tiger or fighting or leaving and running from the tiger. And so your body takes this raw material called pregnenolone and makes cortisol, or it makes DHEA. And it's not going to make both at the same time. And DHEA is an anabolic pathway that can lead to testosterone. So men, if you're having testosterone problems, libido problems, things like that, look to stress first. Look to lower stress, manage your cortisol, and you can aid your testosterone production. Cortisol spikes blood sugar. And how can this affect my health? We've talked about it, but basically in every way possible, every way imaginable. Some risk associated: type 2 diabetes, gut dysfunction, insomnia, suppressed immune system, causes sugar cravings, decreased testosterone, increased belly fat. They've proven that belly fat is a telltale sign that there's cortisol and stress problems. And then depression, anxiety, and mood balances. So some key takeaways. Stress management is essential for optimal health. Gerard, can I get one of your boys again to help me up here? When you guys want to come here, grab all of these journals. So everybody here, I have a journal for you. So there's a big stack of them up here. So a grateful log. They've proven in the brain. Come up front, right up front. There's a Daily Joe. I have one for everybody that's here. Keep coming. Come on, all the way up. And give one to everybody in the room. Yeah, take a bunch of those. Thank you. So my business and performance coach makes these. If you go to dailyjoe.com, you can buy them, but they're a gift to you. There's enough for a whole month. So every day is a page, all right? And if you look at that page on the left, there's a lot of stuff in here. You can review last month. You can put to-dos. You can put your goals. But in the top left of that first page, it says, I am grateful for, all right? And I think it's really important whether you use this or whether you write it down yourself, but to take a grateful log. That's one of my best and easiest and free ways to lower your cortisol. They've shown that the grateful brain cannot be anxious, cannot be stressed at the same time. And I think it's really crazy. If you are grateful, you cannot also simultaneously be stressed, be anxious. So what you want to do is you want to daily write things you're grateful for, all right? It could be simple things. I'm grateful for the house, for the roof over my head. I'm grateful my kids are healthy. It can be something much more profound, things like that. But write down on a daily basis the things you are grateful for, and it will help your stress management. Magnesium, again, there's many mechanisms, but magnesium can help stress. Exercise. So we talked about fight or flight, right? So when you're stressed, again, if a tiger came in here or an invading army came in here, that fight or flight mechanism kicks in. What it does is it dumps a bunch of blood sugar in there, okay? Dumps a bunch of blood sugar so we have immediate energy. People who are stressed can develop, you can have type 2 diabetics that have never touched a carbohydrate. They have elevated blood sugar just because they're stressed. So one of the best ways to manage stress is to exercise. Why? Because you're putting that blood sugar that you have elevated from stress to good use. You're making it work, you're making it do its job and getting rid of that energy and flushing out that blood sugar versus keeping it circulating in your body. So exercise is one of the best ways to manage stress. Pray and meditate. Take a social media break. One of my favorite quotes of all time, I like to share it as often as possible. Comparison is the thief of joy. It really is, and nobody on social media puts up the bad stuff. It's always, look at my new car, look at this, oh, my kids, first day of school pictures, not that that's a bad thing, but comparison is the thief of joy. Take a social media break, learn to say no. Oh, this was so huge when I heard it. If it doesn't make you say heck yes, it should be a no, all right? I can tell you if you want, when I'm done here, where I got that and the guy that's telling the story, but if someone asks you to do something or you get called to do something, if it doesn't make you just say heck yes and really fired up to do it, it should be a no. You should fill your days with things that yes, there are some needs, but if it doesn't make you want to just get up and do it, then say no. Keep that schedule a little easier and a little lighter. Just like taking a social media break, turn off the news. I was in Latvia 2 months ago running a basketball camp with Athletes in Action. And this is a problem for me too, because I like to check on the news. And from the day I left until the day so it was about 6 days, the internet was spotty where I was. We were busy from 8 a.m. all the way till about 10 p.m. I didn't really have time to check email, to check the news. And the stories were exactly the same 6 days later, with all this political stuff going on. You're not missing much, is my point. If you turn off the news for a few days, even a week or a month, but turn off the news can really help, really help reduce your stress and get control of your schedule. Being busy is not a badge of honor. It's an admittance of being out of control. Chris Kresser, this is one of his things. We've come so far, and we're so busy that even 10 seconds of breathing, 10 seconds, timeouts 3 times a day can manage your stress. So we're going to do that now. So your parasympathetic nervous system is engaged when you breathe through the nose. When you're breathing out of the mouth, it's almost like you need more oxygen, and you're telling your body, let's get ready kind of thing. So breathing out of your nose is really important, okay? So let's do that. We're going to spend 10 seconds. You can close your eyes. You can leave them open. Big, long breaths out of the nose. So let's go ahead and start. So that was 10 seconds. Very simple. Those are things you can do, like I said, when you're at a coffee meeting with somebody and they leave for a minute, you're at a red light, maybe don't close your eyes. But I'm already talking a little softer. Like even the 10 seconds, I wasn't even realizing I'm already talking softer and I'm much more calm. So take 10 seconds 3 times a day. Okay? Nutrition, basic number 4. How much time do I have, Andrew? I don't even know. My dad's a preacher, and I take after him. And when Darren said I had an hour, I was like, I hope I don't plan on go for an hour and 20. My dad always went over. Okay, what's the problem? We're going to go through this quickly. The standard American diet is making people fat, sick, and tired because processed food lacks nutrients, and it can even rob us and steal nutrients out of our body. We are farther away from our food now more than ever before. My point in that is I doubt many people in here killed their dinner last night, all right? Texas, sometimes people do that. I doubt you grew all the vegetables that you ate for the salad or your breakfast this morning, all the food. We've gotten so far away from our food. People are so confused. Do we eat paleo, keto, vegan, carnivore, intermittent fasting? Do I go low carb? Do I go low fat? Does this have added sugar or is it low sodium? There's so many things. What do we do with food? We get back to the basics. Just eat real food. Can't be any simpler than that. All right, what do I mean? Buy and eat single ingredient foods. All right? Can someone just shout out a single ingredient food? Asparagus. From a very experienced and very good fitness competitor. Asparagus. I love it. What else? Chicken. Yeah, okay. So you guys get it. People have asked me what that means. I just wanted to clarify. All right? If it's one ingredient, buy it. Eat it. Okay? Buy local. It's very easy in Austin. We are a very rich farm-to-table community. So you can buy local very easy. Stop buying food just because it's on sale. I hope my mom watches this. Mom, stop buying food just because it's on sale, okay? I always say, do you want to pay more now or do you want to pay more later, all right? With your health later, the bills will add up, okay? Pay more now. It's not in the slides, there's a famous Bulgarian coach, and he said, dang it, I'm going to get it wrong. Let's see if I can remember exactly how he said it. Buying cheap costs me too much. I thought that was awesome. Buying cheap costs me too much. All right, meat and nuts breakfast. We're going to go over that in a minute. Why do I want you to eat meat and nuts for breakfast? Because it supports your up neurotransmitters, dopamine and acetylcholine. Focus on a modified paleo diet. If it ran, swam, grew, or flew, you can eat it. Very simple. So before you buy it, did it run, did it swim, did it grow, or did it fly? Boom. Put it on your plate. So some key takeaways. The meat and nuts breakfast, you saw the picture a while ago, that really fit-looking 54-year-old gentleman. This is his thing, his research. He made it really popular. It is plagiarized more than any of his other articles. But the meat and nuts breakfast from Charles Poliquin, when you eat meat and when you eat nuts for breakfast, you increase your dopamine and your acetylcholine. So what does that mean? So there's 4 main neurotransmitter pathways in our bodies, okay? Dopamine and acetylcholine, really, dopamine will help your drive. Acetylcholine will help improve your mental focus and acuity. What do we need in the morning? We need to get up and get going, and we usually need our brains to get turned on, whether it's work or taking the kids or things like that. So it'll improve your dopamine and it'll improve your acetylcholine. It won't push serotonin and GABA. All right. So a lot of people, they drink high sugar coffees, they eat their bagels with cream cheese, they do toast, they do Pop-Tarts. It's carbs. No wonder you fall asleep or feel like you want to fall asleep around 10, because you're pushing serotonin, you're pushing GABA, all right? You're creating crazy fluctuations in your insulin and blood sugar. And by 10 o'clock, 10:30, you're already back at Starbucks getting another coffee to just keep going a little bit. If you want to improve that morning, if you want to just get all the way to lunchtime and be like, wow, I feel amazing, start eating meat, start eating nuts for breakfast. What we need to do, we need to prioritize quality animal protein and organic vegetables. Again, do you want to pay more now or do you want to pay more later, right? Cheap costs me too much. So I'm going to buy quality animal protein. By quality, I mean grass-fed, grass-finished beef. I mean wild-caught fish. Cage-free kind of doesn't mean much anymore. So for chicken, so pastured is great. Organic vegetables, and again, buy local if you can. A lot of bodybuilding, a lot of fitness type stuff, they say it's better to eat 5 to 6 times a day. It's really not. There's no reason if you have enough calories, if you have enough nutrients in your food at breakfast, that it shouldn't sustain you for 4, even 5 hours until lunch. All right? So 3 to 4 times a day, you might need that 4th meal if you have a very stressful or physical job, if you're exercising, things like that. But you don't need to eat 5, 6 times a day. If you eat 3 good meals with quality protein and organic vegetables, you're going to get enough nutrients. Your body should be able to hang out for 4 hours. Understand carbs. So this is one of the biggest things that when I work with my clients that they really don't understand them. Carbs aren't good or bad. They're not. They need to be deserved, though, in my opinion. So if you're leaner, you're afforded more carbs. If you work out really hard or have a physically demanding job, you deserve more carbs. And vice versa. If you're a little more overweight, we should probably pull the carbs back a little bit. But there are some very big benefits to eating carbs. It raises your insulin. Insulin is required for the conversion of T3 to T4. We've talked about, or we haven't talked about, but thyroid hormone, okay, and thyroid production. We need insulin to make that conversion from T3 hormone to the active T4 hormone to keep our thyroids up. So there are some very good benefits to carbohydrates, but just understand them. They are the first macronutrient that I adjust when a client wants to lose weight. So just know that. And then dietary fat doesn't make you fat. This is another one. People are like, oh, I can't eat fat. It makes me fat. Not true. Women metabolize fat better than men. All right? Conversely, it's also true. Guys metabolize carbohydrates better than women. So I do make my female clients, I make sure they're having a good amount of dietary fat. Goes back to that meat and nuts breakfast. And going back to that really quickly, this whole idea and category of breakfast food is such a marketing scheme just to get everybody to buy crappy food. All right? People always, my clients are always like, I can't believe you're eating, a steak for breakfast. I can't believe you're eating leftover chicken for breakfast from the night before. Think about our ancestors. Again, we need to go back. We need to go back in time to how did our ancestors eat. They didn't have refrigeration. There wasn't Pop-Tarts. There wasn't a lot of sugar. All right? They had the kill from the night before, from the day before. They had raw nuts and berries and seeds that they foraged for. These things are what fuel our bodies best. All right? So dietary fat doesn't make you fat. In fact, it can help make you lean, especially the females. So up your fat a little bit if you're not having good fats. All right? We want to avoid trans fats. Canola oil, vegetable oil, please never put those things in your body. But olive oil, butter, ghee, coconut, avocado, these things are all really great, really good for our bodies. And they sustain you. They help you stay full. Oops. So hydration, we're going to race through this because I want to get to movement. My clicker stopped working. There we go. Oh, it's acting up. Let's see if we can get there again. I'm trying here, Andrew. There we go. Hydration. About 60% of our body is water. 43% of adults drink less than 4 cups a day. 7% don't drink any water at all. And 77% surveyed say they don't think they drink enough water. 43% say they don't drink enough because they aren't thirsty, but thirst only appears after one is dehydrated. All right? Dehydration can lead to depression. I get this from my female clients all the time, talking about their hair, skin, and nails. Proper hydration is beneficial for your skin. Another one of my favorite quotes, the solution to pollution is dilution. A lot of people are diluted or are polluted nowadays with the different toxins we're encountering in our daily life in this modern world. The solution to pollution is dilution. Drink enough water. How much is enough? About a half gallon for women. That's 64 ounces. There's your eight glasses of 8. Men, 3/4 of a gallon to a gallon. Again, that's a minimum. I used to tell people half your body weight in ounces. So if you're 200 pounds, 100 ounces of water is a safe bet. But those are the bare minimums. So ladies, 64 ounces, men 3/4 to a gallon. Don't forget that there's water in certain foods as well as coffee and tea. Electrolytes also play a big, important role in our hydration. It's not just water. So sodium, potassium, and magnesium. Sodium is also vilified really intensely. If you're eating clean food, and you're not eating processed food, even Chris Kresser says it's almost impossible to over-salt, to over-sodium your food. And just make sure your sodium has color. It's pink, blue, black, red, Himalayan sea salt, Celtic sea salt, things like that. And then movement. This is really where I love to chat, and we don't have much time, but Socrates said, "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable." I love that quote. Training increases BDNF. In ancestral times, movement was for a reason. It was important. BDF is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. What is that? It improves the function of neurons. It encourages their growth. It strengthens and protects them against natural process of cell death. BDNF is a crucial biological link between thought, emotions, and movement. When our ancestors moved, it was critical that they remembered where they killed the deer, where they found the berry patch, so that they could go back, so that they could survive. All right? When you move, when you exercise, when you train, and I use the word training because training basically leads us to believe we're going towards something. We're not just working out for the sake of working out, but we're training with a goal in mind. So we improve our brain and our cellular function in our brain. We actually create new neurons in our brain when we train. I didn't mean to rhyme there. Exercise increases BDNF and other unknown factors. It increases the neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons. It increases the synapse, the numbers, and increases the function of those neurons. And it increases vascular health, which is a huge protection from Alzheimer's disease. People come to me for the physical body, and this is one of the first things that I tell them, that training is for your brain first, for your body second. Okay? Training is so important for brain health. I've seen some studies where they say it is the number one leading way to prevent dementia, to prevent Alzheimer's, is to get your body moving because of BDNF. It improves insulin sensitivity. We talked about that. Sleep helps it. Stress management helps it. Sunlight helps it. Exercise helps insulin sensitivity. So we're all on the spectrum of insulin sensitivity. There's insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity. Basically, our body's ability to manage and to move that insulin molecule into muscles, into organs, and not create fat. All right? So there's insulin sensitivity, there's insulin resistance, there's prediabetes, there's type 2 diabetes. All right? So we want to be on the other end. We want to be where insulin sensitivity is. All right? We want to be able to eat food. Our bodies know what to do with it, move it accordingly to where we want it to go, and not create fat, and also not just circulate around our bloodstream, which causes upregulations of blood sugar and yada yada. So when we exercise, and there's no time on this, this is just a very, very simple graph, but there is an increase in insulin sensitivity. I talked about it in the stress portion. When we're stressed, our blood sugar rises. Exercise puts that blood sugar to use, all right? Training increases antioxidants. There's the science behind it. You don't need to know it, but just know that training increases antioxidants, because when you train, and when I say training with weights, primarily, you're breaking down your muscle. You're creating oxidative stress. It's like rust on a muffler, all right? And because of that reason, our body has to respond accordingly and creates and increases the antioxidants in our body. Much better than taking just antioxidant supplements. Training decreases stress. Puts that elevated blood sugar to use, like we talked about. It increases serotonin and dopamine. We talked about those neurotransmitters. It helps you feel good and rewarded. It helps you feel a little calm. Releases endorphins, another chemical messenger that makes you feel good. Reason for training, to lower stress. It does temporarily increase cortisol because it is a physical stress, but it decreases it in the long term. And like we said before, it improves sleep, which aids in long-term cortisol decrease. Again, remember that recycle logo with the arrows. All of these are so interconnected. And then this is a little bit more specific, but training with weights helps you retain muscle when burning fat while burning fat when in a caloric deficit, all right? So again, we weren't going to talk about weight loss a lot of times, but since most people come to me with that in mind, we're going to talk about it a little bit. So if you're in a caloric deficit, if you're trying to lose a few pounds, the body's always looking for homeostasis. It will drop muscle potentially to keep that homeostasis going. If you train with weights, you create such a stimulus that your body realizes this knucklehead's going to keep doing this thing. I need to adapt and keep this muscle because he's going to keep this exercise going. So if you want to keep your muscle while you're trying to lose fat, training with weights is the key. And then also with fat loss and weight loss, the lactic acid pathway is greater for fat loss than the aerobic pathway. What does that mean? So Hammurabi was a Romanian defected to West Germany. His research was made popular by Charles Poliquin. But basically, if you do heavy, intense work with short rest periods, you create that lactic acid pathway or that lactate pathway of energy. You're going to burn fat faster, you're going to lose weight faster than if you get out and do the steady state cardio, the aerobics, all right? That's the whole point behind, because lactic acid produces growth hormone. And when you produce growth hormone, you simultaneously build muscle and burn fat, all right? So cardio is not the answer. Weight training is much more quick. It's much more better for your body. So intense whole body exercise with short rest periods. What does that mean for me as a coach who works at a gym? Upper body, lower body supersets of 8 to 15 reps with 30 to 60 seconds of rest. All right? So if you're on your own and you're exercising and you're, a 40-year-old guy and you're still doing the 3 sets of 10 that you did in high school and you're like, why am I not seeing the change and I don't get this? Change it up. Okay? So even more practically, what this means is you might do a set of split squats and a set of seated rows. Guys usually a little bit heavier, girls usually a little bit lighter. So let's say women, you're going to do a set of 15 of the split squats. You're going to wait 30 seconds and do a set of the seated rows. Then you're going to go back and do the set of split squats, wait 30 seconds, go back to seated rows, wait 30 seconds, and go back and forth a few times. That's going to be much more beneficial for you bodily and health-wise for a host of reasons, which we probably won't get into, than just getting out and the boring treadmill stuff or the boring elliptical stuff. Another reason is aerobic exercise. SSC stands for steady state cardio. It is quickly adapted to and burns calories, sometimes at the expense of muscle. All right, I was talking about that with someone earlier. If you've ever changed physical things, whether you're gardening or whether you're exercising or whether your job changes, you probably have experienced that soreness at first, and then after a couple days it goes away, all right? When you do the aerobic exercise, you're doing the same thing, and so your body adapts. Your body's like, okay, this guy's going to keep doing this. I need to adapt, and you'll actually burn less calories over time, and sometimes it's at the expense of muscle. This is my default training program for new clients. So I can't stress enough exercise and we'll talk about it here. So the best movement for you, I get asked that all the time. The best exercise, what is it? It's the one that you enjoy doing. All right. Ultimately, I think there are some key things and some optimal things. But if there's one thing that you really like doing, keep doing it because it gets you moving. And if you're not going to move otherwise, go do that thing. But make sure to get some intense exercise sometimes. Movement is a key to learning and combating cognitive decline as we age. Movement improves our blood sugar. Movement improves our body's stress response. So practically speaking, again, move how you enjoy moving, but make sure to get some intense exercise. I always say that yoga classes are populated by a lot of very flexible, very mobile women. In reality, they should have a bunch of guys in there because a lot of guys are really, really tight and they're not very flexible, and vice versa. There's usually a lot of big dudes in the gym pushing a lot of weight when in reality there should be some more females in there training with weights, okay? So do what you like to do, but make sure to get some intense exercise as well. We lose muscle as we age unless we do something about it. Movement is a key to learning and cognition, and then training with weights using big movements and short rest periods is better for fat loss than cardio. So that's the end of my presentation, Dr. Darren. Maybe someday. Pastor Darren, let me throw this in there as a quick commercial, but today only if you want to do my initial client assessment, it's normally $99. Today it's just $49. So I spend an hour with all of my new clients. Again, I'm a personal trainer, I'm a strength coach, but in that hour we do much more than just, checking your height, weight, body fat. We go into all of the stuff we just talked about, but for you personally, we do a movement screen, because I think everybody in here has different needs. Whether you're weak in this side, whether you're imbalanced in this side, I'll put you up against the plumb line. And we really try to figure out, because bad posture is also a stressor on the body. If you did want to sign up today, I'm happy to have you for just $49 for that 1 hour. And then from there, you'll have a really good, clear roadmap in terms of what I think is best for you, whether you decide to train with me or not. That's a great thing to do. And then one thing that can we put that back up there? Andrew, did I mess up? One thing that mentor of mine, Charles Poliquin, always did after his talks, and I know we're going to have Q&As, but I always like to kind of go back over, what are 10 things you learned today? So, and he always did that. So, just shout it out. What are 10 things you learned today? Huge. Yeah, put your phones on airplane mode when you're sleeping, or as far away from your body as possible.
Meat and nuts for breakfast.
Yep, meat and nuts breakfast. And the
oatmeal is so quick and easy. Throw some protein powder in there.
And you won't believe how good it is for kids going to school. The kids who like to eat the cold cereals and this and that, but man, give them some steak, give them some chicken, give them some fish, and some nuts, man, and seeds. Man, it's really great for them. Really gets them fired up for school.
Bacon?
Love bacon. So pork belly, last year, 2018, pork belly, and a lot of bacon is from pork belly, but pork belly was the 9th most healthy food, ranked by, I can't remember who, but the top 10 foods and the top healthiest foods, number 9 was bacon. So all the guys are like, yes, Tiger Woods in it right now. What else? That was 2. That was 3.
Water.
Drink water. Yeah.
Women and men metabolize carbs and fat.
They do. Yep. Men are better carbohydrate metabolizers, and women are better fat metabolizers. Yeah. And again, those 8 sleep things, it might not work for you, but it might. Some people it does. Some people it's not the top sleep priority that they need to adjust it, but yeah, it can really help.
Immune system is positively affected by sleep.
It really is. Yep. Need optimal sleep to have an optimal immune system. 3 more. Say what? Yeah, sunlight helps to synthesize vitamin D, and we're running low on that time of the year, so get out there. 2 more. We'll get to that 1 second. 2 more things.
Stress is really important. Managing it is really important.
Yeah.
You can eat all the good things, you can do everything else, but if your stress is in crapper,
That's a very eloquent way to put it, Greg. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, you'll sabotage all of your health things. You will sabotage if you're stressed, if you are really stressed. Last one. Speaking of the crapper, don't take your phone to the crapper. Tabitha, what were you going to say? Yeah. If it ran, swam, grew, or flew, eat it.
I'll just say the other big one, the dietary fat doesn't make you fat. That is such a hard thing to wrap your head around after a lifetime of being told low fat, low fat, low fat.
So your generation is most affected by this, that really has a hard time wrapping their head, because that late 70s, early 80s, it was fat-free, it was margarine, it was all this stuff. So in regards to fat, if you're in a caloric surplus, so meaning, or if you're in an energy surplus, so if you're eating more than you're burning, the body will convert fat, dietary fat, to fat first, because it's the easiest. But that's only if you're in an energy surplus. All right, and most of us aren't. What I found with probably 9 out of 10 of my incoming clients, none of us are eating enough, which is another thing that's really hard for people to wrap their head around. People are not eating enough food. If you're eating quality protein and organic vegetables 3 to 4 times a day. It's probably more than you're eating, but I can almost guarantee you everybody in here will lose weight and lose fat. And it happens all the time with my clients. I really do my best not to, unless they want it, give them, eat 125 grams of protein, eat 200 grams of carbohydrates. I don't give them numbers. I want them to eat quality food. And if you're moving and sleeping, it's almost impossible to eat too much good quality food. Yeah. But you have to start there. But yeah, dietary fat won't make you fat. Dietary fat is so beneficial for you. And it makes everything tasty. It's what flavors the food. Cool. I love to say thank you. I'm not going to bombard you with emails, but I would love it if you put your name and email address on there just so I can email you and say thanks for coming. And if you want to do the assessment, just let me know while I'm here. Cool. Thank you.